Suntem live digital, nu ne-am văzut în cadrul industriei din România și nu ne-am văzut cu mulți dintre oamenii dragi nouă din alte țări de anul trecut. Ar fi trebuit să ne vedem în martie. Am tras cu dinții și cu multă disperare de un eveniment pe care am vrut să-l facem și un eveniment pe care l-am vrut cea mai mare ediție MMB de până acum. Ne-am văzut nevoiți să renunțăm în momentul în care au apărut primele interdicții de circulație între țări și în același timp în momentul în care panica în mod absolut normal s-a instaurat între toată lumea. Și ia ca acum, în iulie, am pus la cale un eveniment digital care va ține 3 zile. Avem câte 8 paneluri, câte 2 simultan, desfășurate în fiecare din cele 3 zile de MMB Online. Și tema, evident, este prezentul pe care îl trăim, privit din foarte multe puncte de vedere, privit din foarte multe direcții, și sperăm ca aceste 3 zile de MMB Online să aducă măcar, nu știu, o direcție, poate puțină claritate și răspunsuri la niște întrebări pe care cu toții ni le punem și la care cumva de care ne lovim în fiecare zi fără să avem o soluție. I'm going to switch to English right now because our first panel is an English-speaking panel, and I'm going to first of all welcome you guys, some of you back to MMB, but not this way, but back to MMB. And I'm going to welcome Tom for the first time here. I'm going to shortly introduce you, and then I will ask each of you to shortly present the organization that you're working for, because this first panel is called the Music Industry in Crisis. It's a very general term, but we like to keep it general because it's very important for us to realize that each of you is a music industry professional with a lot of experience, but also part of an organization that can gather a lot of data, that can have a lot of input in the global music industry. And that is why we would like to discuss the crisis from each of your organization's points of view. So we have Corinne Satki, which is Head of Study Communication and Digital Development at Le Bureau Export, and is President of EMEE. We have from Impala, Kees van Weyen. He's the President, and Didier Grosset, Membership and Communication Manager from Impala Music. And for the first time at MMB, Tom Deakin. He's a director at Global Member Relations of Merlin. So welcome, guys, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Now, MMB attendees already know Corinne and Kees and Didier, and so it's the first time for Tom. I would like each of you to tell us a few words about what each of your organizations does in the music industry. I think it's very important that our viewers understand who is talking to them. So let's start, ladies first. Let's start with Corinne.
Thank you. So I will just briefly present first Le Bureau Export, which is the French music export office, which is my daily job. And we work with the French music sector, all the sector, labels and live producers, publishers, artists. And we try to help them in constructing their international development for artists, which is advice, workshops, and funding for their international development. So that's my daily job. And I'm also the president of EMI, which is the European organization of the export offices in Europe. So we are now 28 members, representing more than 22 countries in Europe, and we gathered together to get stronger and try to exchange best practices and advices together. We also, we've been involved in the writing of an export strategy for Europe last year. The study is online on the European Commission. And we will keep on working on that way to have a stronger European music sector.
Thank you, Corinne. Now, before we go on to Impala, I would like to tell our viewers, and I will repeat it as they gather more and more, that they can write questions right on Facebook. We will allocate the last 10 minutes of this panel to answering their questions, and I'm sure as the discussion evolves, questions will for surely appear. Now, either Case or Didier, tell us a few words about Impala, please.
If I may start, Impala is the organization of all the independent record companies in Europe, as long as they're member of the trade associations, which we have in 28 member states at the moment. Which means that Impala is coordinating on a non-profit basis the interest for all the artists and independent labels. What I can go on for a long time, but I would like to say is, for the interested people, please go to www.impalamusic.org and you can find all the press releases, all the latest information, and especially all our work which we do with the European Commission on behalf of our members. And I think, once again, I can make it as long as possible, but let's keep it this way and check the website of Impala.
Didier, anything you want to add?
I don't have much to add. I think in a nutshell, that's exactly what we do. Impala nowadays represents very close to 5,000 record labels all over Europe, as in geographical Europe. We are not limiting ourselves to the EU. And I think it's really important to underline that since we met last year in Bucharest at MMB, there is now a new Romanian Association of Independent Record Labels that has joined Impala, called Indie Row, and it's a great addition to the little indie world in Europe.
Thank you very much. On to you, Tom. What is Merlin and what's their magic?
So, yeah, thank you very much. And thank you for inviting me onto this panel. Merlin, I've been at Merlin for 12 years. This is my 12th year. Merlin is a digital licensing agency on behalf of the independent sector. So essentially what Merlin does is we represent 15% of the global market share of the independents, both record labels, distributors, media companies who control or own copyrights. And we, on their behalf, we license DSPs like Spotify, YouTube, Deezer, etc. So we, by obviously doing that collectively, we are able to provide deals that are better than what the members could get themselves. So we pride ourselves on basically having deals that are in line and have parity with the majors, and providing opportunities to the independents that are again in line with the majors. So we are a not-for-profit organization, and like what Kay said, I can also provide a lot of information about the background of Merlin and what we do. But essentially, we license digital services on behalf of the independent sector. So if you're a record label or distributor and you're looking to make sure you're maximizing the revenues you can get on these services and maximize the opportunities you can get on these services, I recommend obviously getting in touch with myself or going to our website, merlinnetwork.org, to find out more and to find how you can join. Like I say, we're a not-for-profit organization, so we're not taking a percentage of your revenue for our own profits, and it's free to join, and it's definitely a worthwhile thing to do. So check it out.
Thank you, Tom. Now that we've got all the organizations cleared and everybody knows what you represent, I think I can assume we are covering most of the music industry's global aspect here. We have record labels, we have export offices, which contain the live sector of the music. We have licensing. So I think that the first question is actually there's no better place to ask this question than here. So I'm talking to, and I would like each of you to respond to this of course, from your personal experience, from what you gathered from your friends, from your colleagues, but also from your organization's points of view. How big and bad and scary is actually the crisis that the music industry is facing in 2020? And I don't know, whoever feels inspired can start.
If I can start from, I'm also the president of the Dutch TA called Stomp. And we have a lot of weekly meetings and Zoom calls and whatever. First of all, to assess the whole project in the sense of how bad indeed your question, and how bad does it affect our members. At Impala, from the beginning, we started with the COVID-19 program. We picked up a lot of our questions. We put them in a 10-piece program, and I'm sure later on, DJ Gosset will come back to this, back to the Dutch organization. It is hurting us very, very badly, the industry, especially the independents, as the independents in most markets still represent something like 30-35% physical records. In countries where mostly the digital streaming world is predominantly the business, actually mostly with, let's say, the bigger record companies, they don't see a lot of pain on the streaming side. But the biggest pain is made by the performances, the live gigs, and so forth, which we feel will not be resumingly to normal levels by maybe mid next year.
So you're saying that live sector is the most hurt, streaming is still going on, physical sales have diminished. This is the first of the assessments that we have. Who'd like to add to this?
Yeah, I've got some figures that I can add, which are from France, because there was a big study that was made on the global revenue of the music industry by EY. So it's you know, and it's been done hand in hand with the music sector, and they are talking about 43% of revenue loss as a global scale, which is a hell of a lot. This is supposing that there would be no live shows this year, and that maybe it will start in 2021. So it's about nearly 10,000 shows cancelled. So for the live sector, it's 84% of live revenue loss, which is 1.8 billion euros. So I think this is really a huge, impact on the music sector, and especially when we still don't know when the real life is going to be on again. I mean, we don't know when live shows will be connected with the reality. We don't know, and the normal, I mean, what is the date where you can have a hall full of people, dancing on a show? We really don't know. So it's 84% for the live sector, and in France for the recording industry, it's nearly 20% of loss. And for artists and performers, we are talking about 46.8 million euros of loss, which is a hell of a lot for France. So I don't have the AU. I don't think there are any AU figures for that. I think we should, do something for that. But for France, it's, a huge loss.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but if we're talking about a 43% loss at in an industry globally, we're talking bankruptcy. I mean, it's close. Yeah. It's yes. Something that is not just a bad dream. It can happen.
Yeah, the live syndicate Prodis, they think that 51% of the live companies will close.
And this is in France or in Europe?
In France. No, that's French figures. We don't have any
French
AU. Okay. Yeah, French figures.
Yeah, so 51%, that will mean that if the live sector revives somehow, it'll be half as big as it was. And
Yeah.
nobody can estimate what that will do to the music, actually.
Well, the problem is it's just, most of them are self-employed, very small or middle companies. So the precarity of these, sector is huge. So maybe the biggest one will have loss, but will survive. But most of the smallest one will not survive.
Okay.
Can I just chime in?
Please.
So obviously, we, being a digital licensing agency, we're not involved with the live sector, which obviously, has been the most badly hit, obviously, with people not being able to go to gigs. So I can't really talk about the live sector, but obviously that does have an impact on the record labels and distributors we represent, because obviously artists need to perform, obviously to make up their revenues, but also to promote the digital content that they're releasing. You need to, it's sort of hand in hand. You have to go out there and play your new songs to help promote those for them fans, to people to then listen to them on the streaming platforms. And I think it's a devastating situation, not obviously just for the music sector, but for every sector as a whole. Tourism, travel, everything. So. But in terms of the position for the digital sector, actually, there is I'm not going to say a silver lining, but obviously there are. Thank God we do have the digital sector as it is. 12 years ago, before Merlin was formed, the whole the digital sector was not really that well established. And now we obviously have subscription services like Spotify and Deezer, Apple, doing exceptionally well and bringing in revenues, and we've been analysing those platforms during this crisis, and we've during this pandemic, and we've seen obviously that actually subscriber numbers are going up, and we have services like Spotify now launching in Romania. So although we are in a crisis, there are some little things happening that are still positive. I think obviously people are not able to go out to gigs, are not able to do the things that they would normally like to do, go to the cinema, go to a restaurant. So obviously I think subscription services like Netflix, like Spotify, play an important part in offering consumers entertainment. And so from what we can see at this stage, at least, of this situation, people, we're not seeing suddenly people cancelling their subscriptions and going, we panicking and worrying about their finances. I think it's positive to see. It's positive to see that people are still subscribing, and also more people are subscribing. So subscriber numbers are growing up, and so revenues we're seeing an upward trend on revenues. So that's really good to be able to do that to see that for our members, because obviously that's an important part of their revenue and an increased part of their revenue. So that's obviously a real positive. And the fact that services like Spotify are still in a position to expand their offering to new markets like Romania, like we're seeing, and also Russia, is again really encouraging. And not only are we seeing that, we're also seeing an emergence of more services coming about, not necessarily new services, but existing services looking to expand their offering. So, we've in the last year or so, we've seen services like Facebook introduce music and licensing music partners to their service. We're also looking at, we've just recently licensed with Triller, which is another sort of short form video service like TikTok. We've got licensed TikTok. So there's an emergence of more new services that are coming out and looking to utilize music in a different way, not just listening to a full length track, but just using music in that way. But it has a financial gain to obviously the artist. And so I think, we don't know how long this is going to go on for, but I think, adaptability here is crucial, and finding ways in which to make up those shortfalls and maybe not being able to generate revenue from live by what we can do as Merlin, license new services and find new opportunities to make revenue for our members via, like I said, platforms like Triller and TikTok and Facebook, etc. is really key to how we can help the music sector. And I think
just a quick question. Sorry.
Yeah.
you're saying that actually the number of subscribers to paid music streaming platforms is rising, which is a good sign. You're also saying that there are more and more platforms appearing, like existing platforms in new territories, or actually Facebook platforms like Facebook, which are expanding into streaming music. Okay,
Exactly.
but how are things from the other side? Because you, as a licensor, also have numbers of the output of music. Are people still making music? Are artists still making music?
Exactly.
Is the quantity decreasing, increasing? Is it?
We're seeing an increase. I think we're seeing an increase. If you think, you know, artists who would maybe be touring right now, who are, you know, facing being, you know, locked down and not being able to leave their house and stuff, are now actually, you know, creating more content. So we are seeing an increase. I mean, this is, I'm sort of generally speaking, I haven't gone around to every one of our 900 plus members, and there are thousands of artists, to find out who, you know, they're all doing this. But generally, from what I'm hearing from our members, yes, there is an increase in content being created. So I think that's you know, with the services that we license and the members we represent, I think again this is this is what I'm talking about, like adapting to the situation. You know, finding new ways. You know, if we can't do live gigs, maybe look at how we can do live streaming and doing gigs virtually. How can we increase revenues by maybe, you know, creating more content and utilizing platforms like these social media platforms like TikTok and Twitter to again increase revenues to support these artists through this very difficult time.
Thank you, Tom. Now, Didier, is there anything you'd like to add? And also, I'd like to start with you on the second part of this question. How did each of your organizations react to the crisis? And I'd like to start with Impala, because I know you have a document prepared, and I know that Impala was one of the first organizations that reacted to COVID-19.
Yes, I will briefly add something to what's been discussed already about the current situation and crisis. I think what's really important is that we have definitely had the confirmation that the music sector is a virtuous circle, some kind of chain. Obviously, through this chain, you will find all the different jobs and aspects of the sector, be it booking agents or managers or record labels or artists themselves. Obviously, that chain was broken, and the part where it was broken first was the live music sector. From an Impala perspective, if we look at record labels, you could say we are not the most badly affected from all these jobs, in the sense that most record labels are still in a position to work. But the big question is that we are dealing with a situation where, first, we do not know when we will go back to normal, and two, we do not know what the new normal will look like. I think a lot of record labels at this point in time are postponing their releases, are working differently, and no one knows basically what 2021 will look like. It would be kind of suicidal for some smaller structures, for example, to make a release early in 2021, even if the situation is back to normal by then. Because if you look at it, most festivals have actually just literally postponed their 2020 edition into next year, meaning most of the slots are taken. It's going to take months, if not years, to get back to a normal release schedule, and that will have a long-lasting impact. I also think that most actors will have to face new realities. We witnessed with a lot of interest the rise of live streaming through the crisis. Obviously, it raises questions when it comes to remuneration of the artists, of the publishers, of the record labels, and also, is this a new trend? At the same time, when concert venues will be in a position to reopen, what will the situation look like? Will people be willing to go back to concerts? It's a lot of question marks that we will have to tackle, even once, and let's hope it's going to come quickly, once that situation of crisis is coming to an end. Now, coming back to your second question, Impala quite quickly reacted to what we saw coming as a huge crisis, especially as a European trade association. Our idea was at first that we needed to monitor what was being developed in every single country, because obviously, if you look at Europe, not all the countries were affected the same way, not all the countries reacted the same way or at the same speed. That work that we did, that kind of monitoring work, is still visible and being updated daily on a specially dedicated website that we launched, and I can briefly share that on screen with you guys.
Yeah, please do.
You will see the address on it if it works. So it's an impalamusic-covid19.info, on which you will be able, if you browse it, to basically find an overview of all the actions that were taken in every member state that has taken action. And let's be honest, it is all of them nowadays. On top of that, and I'll go back to a normal screen. On top of that, Impala and its members worked on a COVID-19 crisis plan, which was launched and unveiled in May. And this is a 10-step recovery plan. Because obviously we are in a situation where not only do member states or the sector itself on a national basis make some interventions, decisions, and develop its own ways of support, but we were also, and you have to keep that in mind, in a situation where at EU level, the old budget for the coming years was about to be voted. And it was really important at that time to make sure that culture and music, as far as we are concerned, was not forgotten, keeping in mind that the crisis is obviously affecting all the economy. There is not one sector that is not to some extent affected by this crisis. And so that plan was launched and used as some kind of lobbying tool, not only at EU level, but also at national level for every member state, because we know from experience that it is always very interesting to use a situation that has worked in one country as a potential tool in another country.
Case, anything you want to add to what Didier has said?
No, that is correct. And we very quickly formed from our management board a management team, and we had weekly Zoom calls, like I said at the start of this session. And we still had it till this week, actually. And it is such a good website where you can see all the different measures. And one of the measures I would like to add is that we, as a local TA in the Netherlands, we encourage all artists not to wait with releasing new material, but get it out now, for the simple reason that the digital world continues. And okay, live business is not there at the moment, but we are really trying to kick ass. Next to that, we have initiated together with the Performing Society a budget of around €1 million in Holland, where artists could apply, and to a maximum of 30 to 50,000 euros per artist, to encourage them. Some of them were half loans, half a gift, and some of them were purely a gift, but then with the intention so that they can survive. Like Corinne said, in France, we have exactly the similar problems. So we hope that all these small, medium enterprises, we call them in Europe, that they can survive as artists by creating music and bring it out via the royalties, which will be paid quicker by most organizations to help these artists as well.
So it's coming from Impala. Guys, if you're an artist, just put out your music, let it out, because it's the only way to remain relevant and to make some money, however little it is. But it's the only way to stay alive. Just release your music as soon as it's done. Please, Case, anything you want to add?
No, I like to give the others a chance as well to say something.
Corinne?
Yeah, well, actually, as EMI, European Who's done? Keith
Case's phone has fallen.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's part of the digital thing.
My
Case, thank you.
phone has fallen, but that's no problem.
That's no problem.
Releasing his new show straight away.
No,
Sorry.
Case's phone is probably like the music industry right now, so it's okay.
Well, okay, at a European level as EMI, we've tried to exchange first informations when it started about, what was happening in each market. And then we realized that the best we have to exchange was how to get the best information to support each of us who were going to local authorities to ask for help and support. Because you know that the answers from national authorities has been really different from one country to another one. So, and most of us who are export initiatives in some countries, there are also national music, either centers or, so they were really involved with the national problems, trying to gather information, help the local artists and labels and producers. So that was for the EMI part. And regarding France, the sector has been helped really largely through support from the local authorities, because of course there is all the support for the industries that has been open. And you know that in France, artists are maybe lucky because there is this intermittent du spectacle. When you don't, when you're not on stage or when you're not working, you've got a specific unemployment fee. And this has been supported by the government, because here is as if the year was not existing, because you have to make a certain amount of hours if you want to get your unemployment fee. So this year has been totally like as if everybody was working. The unemployment fee will be remain the same anyway. But regarding music, there were more than 60 million, of recovery fund that has been deployed with the new Centre National de la Musique that has been funded in January. Because now in France, everything's gonna be in the same big house for music, and all the support from the Ministry of Culture will go through that main house. And I mean, it started in January, and they've had the crisis, as a first step of organizing the new Center of Music. So that was a big challenge. But the money was there, and I think the support has been done now for live to start with, but also publishers and labels and artists. I think maybe PR managers are the forgotten of all this crisis for the moment. And we have to really find a solution for them, because they are crucial, working with artists every day. And I think the answer might not be here for the moment. And they are small companies, so we should think about them. But that's what we've been doing these last years. And as Didier was telling, trying to make the best lobbying, which is not a nice word, but it's just a reality, to tell the European Commission, because the new budget was voted, that culture and music especially, should be supported very strongly.
So thank you very much, Corinne. Before we go over to Tom, I'll just repeat the fact that we're awaiting questions from our viewers. You can post them on Facebook, and I'll have a Q&A for all the panelists in the last minutes of this panel. Now, Tom, how did Merlin react to the crisis?
Yeah, so really, I mean, what we do as a digital licensing agency, we just wanted to continue to do that, but make sure that we could try and expedite payments to members, expedite getting deals done. So that was our core focus, was really to make sure that what the part we played for our members, which is getting deals done, that's really what we did for our members, and therefore we just wanted to make sure that we did that as quickly and as effectively as possible. So by making sure we're doing these deals sooner, making sure these deals included things like advances and things like that, we knew we can get payments to our members quicker. So that's really, that's how we've kind of tried to lend a hand to members, thinking like, what do our members need? They need money. They want to get that money as quickly as possible. So let's ensure that we can get new deals done as quickly as possible. So there's additional revenue streams there coming in. Let's making sure that we get these deals to include things, advances and equity and all the other benefits that we can get to ensure that again we're helping our members in that regard. And we also actually worked alongside Apple Music with their program to provide up to $50 million in advances to Apple licensed members. So we also worked on that with them as well.
Thank you, Tom. So another thing that came up here is actually the speed at which money circulates in the, because the most important thing that we need to know is that the live sector implicates a quick money circulation. You have the gig, you got your money, and then you went on. All that is licensing wise or any other source of revenue, it implicates a longer delay, and artists need money to survive now, today. So this is a side effect of the period that we're actually all experiencing right now. Now, this is the question that everybody's asking themselves and one another since March, or maybe even earlier in some territories. But I think that we've already heard an estimate from one of you guys. But the question is, how long will it, do you think it lasts? Do you have any estimates based on all the
Sorry. Keith, I can't hear the question. Keith, could you turn your mic off?
Ze vragen nu of mijn microfoon wel afzet.
Maybe you could turn your mic off when you're not
that will help.
speaking. That would be great.
Thank you. So the question was, how long will the crisis last? Because each of you has access to information that actually can bring a more educated guess than your average music industry professional.
I'm not sure we can answer the question, can we? Didier, do you have an answer?
No, I think it's a tricky one. I remember when the crisis started that some people among us saying it would last 6 months were seen as pessimistic, and we are now 4.5 months later, and basically it looks like there's that infamous second wave of so it's really tricky to know. And as I mentioned,
Case, can you mute your...
Sorry, Case, we have terrible background
I thought I muted already, but...
You're not muted, Case. You're not muted.
There you go. But not only do we not know yet about what the back to normal date might be, but we'll have to make sure to keep in mind that there will be long-lasting effects even once we go back to normal. I know that I was also involved in Belgium as a member of the Belgian National Association of Independent Record Labels. I was involved in the negotiations with the government, and we are at a point where we are basically asking for measures that could last and cover the damage for at the very least 2 years, to some extent. Obviously, this will vary depending on which part of the music sector. In mind for sure that some people, as Corinne mentioned it, some people like booking agents or managers are in some cases with absolutely no income at the moment.
Okay, so we have an estimate of 6 months for the live sector to get back, actually to the mid 2021. So it's another year from now. And DDA just said that they're preparing to ask for support from government for the next 2 years, as the long-lasting effect of this crisis cannot actually be estimated. Anything anyone would like to add to this? I know it's a tough question, but you have to admit that it's a privilege to have so many important people in the European music business together. I couldn't miss the opportunity to ask this question and get a more educated guess. So anything any of you would like to add?
I mean, I'd just say, obviously, there's no saying how long this is going to last for. So, obviously, it's not a case of you can't just sit and wait for the news that, everything's going back to normal. And like Didier says, we don't even know what normal will be. Things might never go back to how they were. So I think, like I said earlier, I think it's all about adaptability and making sure that, you're finding new ways and trying to look for ways in which you can change what you're doing, adapt to the situation we find ourselves in now, because this is probably a long-term situation we find ourselves in, and therefore there's no point sitting around waiting for the normal to come back and to resume. I think it's like, right, what can we do? How can we change things? What tools are available to us? We live in a digital world. If you are, I mean, I can only speak in the digital sector because that's where I'm based in, but obviously for us, it's a kind of, like I say, making sure that you're utilizing all the platforms that are available and looking into live streaming. I think that's definitely something that we need to sort of figure out how we can expand on and make that more of a new sort of and more of a successful sort of revenue stream for members, because I think that's something that could be developed. But I think definitely it's about adaptability as opposed to just sitting and waiting, because we don't know how long it's going to last.
I totally agree, Tom. Sorry, Keith. I just totally agree, and I think, I mean, it's globally that we don't know when all this is going to end, and even if it's going to end, I mean, who says we are not going to? We will have to learn maybe to live with that sort of things happening. I don't hope this, but it might be the case. So yes, I think the idea is to be creative now and to see other ways of thinking of our industry, of the way you make your music, the way you share it as an artist. And I mean, for the live sector, you're right, Tom. I mean, we really don't know how long it's gonna last, and even if we can't wait for normal to be back. This is not an issue, and there are big issues regarding the rights for the live stream that has to be discussed, and we should really get ready to gather together and talk about that. New laws, new revenues, how to be sure that, we've been talking about TikTok, which is great because all the youth are there and they discover some music there. We know that for sure. So what about the remuneration on that sort of platform, for example? So what kind of deal can be done globally to be sure that this flow of revenue will grow really, so that the artists can really have a new living?
I think you're right, Corinne, but I think that we don't see a lot of changes on the live sector until there's a real vaccine, which can be used all over the world. And that will take at least such a long time. What Trump is saying by tomorrow, and we all know that it might be in February, March, or even April. So yes, we are in a creative world. We have seen a depression. We have seen economical setbacks. We have seen copying setbacks over the time in the record business. We will overcome this, but because this community is so creative, and we have to be, and you see a lot of new initiatives starting now all over the world, and I have a feeling that we will survive, but there will be casualties along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Kees. Guys, we're in the final 5 minutes of our panel, and I have some questions from our viewers. First one from Madalina Popa. What do you think will be, or already is, the biggest change in the music industry as a result of the global pandemic? I know it's a tough one. I thought about it.
Sorry, go on, Kees.
No, go on, DJ.
No, I think we have to some extent already answer that question in the sense that at this point in time, we are definitely relying on digital solutions much more than even before. Not only streaming, as Tom mentioned it, but also with the rise of live streams and the fact that have more and more options to do like private shows, paying private shows online. But you can see that the industry, to some extent, and the music fans and music consumers, although I hate that word, are moving to digital solutions to basically replace what they are missing, which is the live music experience, or sometimes simply the pleasure of buying a record.
What we saw during the lockdown was, for example, that a lot of artists, mostly singer-songwriters, went to all kinds of places to cheer up people and played their music free of charge. We were absolutely against it. It was great that they did it, but it devaluated the value of music, and that's now recognized, and that's why we will see a lot of new initiatives now, which I'm very happy about.
I totally agree with all that is said here, of course, and this crisis has just been a huge accelerator of the digitization of our music sector. But I would say something. I think what is important too, and I don't know if this is the biggest chance of our music industry, but it might be a good chance for the European music industry, because I think we're all speaking together. We have meetings with Impala, with Europe, with all these networks of European actors from all the sector and subsectors, even classical music and opera. We're all trying to share, and maybe the solution would be that globally, as European music sector, if we really think together, we might find some new solutions, some new platforms to share things. I don't know, we have to be creative, but I think we have to be creative all together as European.
Thank you, Corinne. Yes. Anything anyone would like to add to this?
Well, just to add to what's already been said, really, but I mean, obviously, the live sector, as we've discussed, has been the major part of the sector that's been hit, and especially I imagine for upcoming unsigned artists, it's going to have a massive impact on those guys, because if you're an established artist, great, people will know where you are, they know how to find you on Spotify or Deezer or whichever platform, Mixcloud or SoundCloud or whatever preferred platform it is. But if you're an unsigned artist, you rely so much upon doing, those festivals, playing at pubs and bars or wherever it might be to try and get yourself a fan base, to grow your audience. And now the only way to do that is online, and that's a very, very saturated place to try and get yourself out there and ahead of everybody else. So I imagine this is going to have a massive long-term impact on new music being released, new artists. So again, I think we need to adapt and be creative. And I think one of the great things about the independent sector is we're very creative and very good at adapting and finding new ways of doing things. So I've got a confidence that we're going to sort of get through this very difficult time.
So do I, and what I see at one of the very positive points at the moment is that labels, we're all competitors, indies, whatever. But you see, at least in Holland, in the Dutch market, that labels are talking much more with each other, and to see if we can find solutions together instead of do it individually. I think that is a very good plus point of the whole crisis, because that way the creativity amongst the all can be better managed and better put to, I hate the word in a sense, but power, at least speaking with one voice to the governments and to Europe, and try to show them where our losses are and how they can need us, help us. And we never as an industry asked for money. But now in this such exceptional situation, a strong voice from the indie sector all over Europe is being heard, and I'm very pleased with that.
Kees, this was the conclusion to our panel. Thank you all very much for being here today, especially you, Case, because we interrupted your vacation. We wish you all, and we wish ourselves to meet again with better news, to meet face to face, and to share a good glass of Romanian wine at the next MMB. Thank you all for attending, and all the best.
Thanks, Dan. Goodbye, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye.